Warning: the following video contains speculation on a video game that is yet to be confirmed to be true. If you are the kind of person to get hissy at this kind of thing, then please leave. Otherwise, please enjoy 4 things Bethesda fans want from Starfield. So as a little preface for something that people may or may not know, is that Starfield is what is rumoured to be the next Bethesda Game Studios game. Bethesda Game Studios, Todd Howard in particular, and Pete Hines have confirmed that there's 2 Bethesda games that are coming out before The Elder Scrolls 6. So what can there be? A lot of rumours stemmed up that Starfield was going to be one, because Starfield is this trademark that was refiled in 2013 and was refiled again early last year, I believe, or late 2016. Of a video game title that is yet to be released by Bethesda. So everyone's thinking, you know, what is it going to be? You know, Bethesda said they're going to be doing something different. Starfield sounds like it's going to be something different than what they've done before, but also with the potential to be something along the same vein, and is a trademark they haven't used yet. So kind of adding all the different points together, there's a chance that it could be the game that Bethesda are waiting on to releasing this year or next year or whenever. The next title anyway, the next unannounced IP. But anyway, the reason why I decided to make this video is because, you know, while there's starting to be a lot of talk on the forums and fan sites and things like that about Starfield, about being a real possibility, so I kind of wanted to do a little breakdown of what a bit of a roundup of what I think fans generally want from the game. Whereas other than this, I think the options of what they can kind of go for is limitless, but these 4 things I think they want to kind of stick true to. So here are the 4 things that fans want from Starfield. Number 1 is Bethesda-style exploration in space. So Bethesda, really in their games, you know, the Elder Scrolls series and Fallout series and Bethesda Game Studios tend to have phenomenal exploration. In the way that they craft it, where they've got this mastered down art of being able to run in the direction and really find adventure wherever you go. You know, how many times in Skyrim have you just literally stopped doing a quest, you know, just stopped doing what you were planning on doing and just in a cave in the distance and gone to that cave, gone through it, and just gone your way through there. And sometimes you can just go in and there'll be some, you know, skeevers in there or some wolves or something, and then you'll be able to go through, get a little bit of loot and go out. But then there's also those times as well where you go in and then at the end of it there's a cage and you get caught in the cage and you get trapped by this necromancer and you kill the necromancer to be able to get out and stuff. There's those little random encounters in their exploration of the world that make the game special, and the fact that you've got the freedom to do that in these worlds really make it great. And people no one wants them to lose that for Starfield. They want to maintain that kind of Bethesda style, in the sense that, you know, we can go anywhere where we want to go. You know, if you want to go over and climb that mountain, you can go over and climb that mountain. You know, if you want to do that quest and not do this one at this right time, you can go do that quest. You know, we don't really want to have this trend of the rubber banding leveling system that we're starting to see in RPGs and big open world games around about the time now of 2018, 17 and 16 beforehand. What we want to see, again, is, like I reiterate, a dense, packed world, which is something that, while it's called Starfield, we can pretty much assume that the game is in space if it's to be true. Space exploration tends not to be dense. You know, I think people are getting horror stories in their minds at the minute of, you know, the No Man's Skies and stuff like that, and, you know, your Elite Dangerouses, where games that have a lot of exploration in the moon space tend to have a lot of empty areas and stuff, and Bethesda don't tend to do that. They tend to have a large map as a whole, like a fairly big map, but packed full of content, packed full of a lot of stuff to do in there, and a lot of really interesting stuff away from quests, you know, to do, like caves and, like I said before, and, you know, like we've got in Fallout and everything, like the outposts and everything that we can go out and clear. And they're, you know, not just the, you know, just the standard bandit camps that we get in, you know, other games like Horizon and stuff. These games are actually, these are areas that when you go in there, you can actually find interesting story, and that you can actually really see what's been going on in there. You know, like sometimes, like I say, you could be a frost troll den, or, you know, in a, or another time it could be a vampire hunter. The endless possibilities of what we can find in the world tend to be endless in a way, but contained with the rules of that world. And I think Starfield, if it does that, having a dense space open world is enough to make it different and make it interesting, because the fact that, you know, in some areas, you know, like in Mass Effect, you know, in the early Mass Effect games, for instance, they tend to have this kind of idea of, you know, having big areas when you go from back to forth and everything. You know, you do an area, then you go to the next area, and go on and forth and everything, and you kind of explore the world as you go, in reality to how the game kind of works. And Starfield doesn't want to be there. We want to kind of have that world where we can go to, if it is various planets, go to the various planets and explore them and stuff like that, and take our time in doing it, not necessarily be in the kind of vein that we have to go do this little bit of area, then move on and do that bit of area before we can move on further, like we've seen, you know, recently in Assassin's Creed Origins, where it works well for those kind of games, but that's not what the fans want from Bethesda. And number 2 is an improved main quest line, and this is not necessarily bashing on the quest itself, but more really it's kind of bashing more on the story. Because in my opinion, some of the quests that we've started seeing in recent games, you know, for the Bethesda style outlet, have been the biggest ones, I'd say, in the game, for instance. I've really enjoyed doing, you know, the Dragonborn quest line, for instance. I thought that, in my opinion, is the best main story that Bethesda has made. I think that's contrary to popular opinion, I think a lot of people would say Fallout 3 is the best main quest what people have played for a Bethesda game. I think I really enjoyed the Skyrim one because of the scale of the impact that it tends to have on the world around it, you know, and I think the idea of, you know, a dragon god coming back was really cool, but anyway, that's few and far between. The main point is, though, is that in general, the Bethesda-style main story quest lines tend to be fairly poor and reserved. I was very disappointed in Fallout 4's main storyline. I feel like the story itself, it lacked that feeling of urgency, it lacked that feeling and being able to, I didn't feel like I wanted to do the main quest when I was going to do the missions, you know, I wanted to do other things. Where, you know, in Bethesda games, it's great that we've got that freedom to do it, but for instance, when I played The Witcher 3 or something like that, for instance, I was yearning to find where Ciri was, you know, I couldn't wait to get to the point in the story where I can, you know, finally meet that character again and start seeing her and Geralt around each other and everything. And the same thing can be said, you know, for games, in my opinion, like the Dragon Age story, like, even a lot of people bash on Dragon Age, but I thought the story in Dragon Age 1, for instance, was a vast improvement of what we've seen in an Elder Scrolls game forever, mainly because I think that the stories in them can tend to be quite a little bit generic in the sense, you know, like a little bit in the way that, you know, you've got a major threat attacking the place that you're in and everything like that, and you're the one that can defeat it. You're the only one, you know, in Oblivion, you're the one that, you know, had the Amulet of Kings and just went around and you became the hero of Kvatch and just roamed around and was literally the main man. You're the only one that tend to be doing something, and the same thing can be said for, you know, Fallout 3 in particular, massively in Fallout 4 and Skyrim as well with the Dragonborn idea. But I want them to take it forward. I want them to have a lot more depth to the story. I want us to have characters that we can relate to a lot better, not just popping up every now and then. You know, I feel like in reality the followers in Fallout 4 took a big step forward in doing that, so that's why I've got kind of a bit of hope for having this kind of more depth to the characters around us. But I think the biggest culprit of this, in my opinion, of not really having any depth to them was Skyrim. I think Oblivion did it really well. I think Fallout 3 did a feasible job. It didn't do it ideally, you know, but it did enough of a job, you know, where we can kind of understand the characters around us and relate to them. But, you know, in Fallout 4, like I said, I think it took a step forward, but Skyrim in really didn't do that great a job at doing it. You know, I suppose we had Delphine and that around us to be able to relate to and talk to, but we never really liked or really enjoyed talking to those characters, where in other open world games now, it's them character interactions which I really love. You know, I really want to see more of, and I hope that in Starfield we can be able to get that kind of cast of characters around us that we can really enjoy seeing again throughout the game, talking to and finding out more about. And number 3, I think this is the most important one out of the lot, is an interesting lore and an interesting world. And these two, in my opinion, tie in perfectly together. And like the example I always give for, I'll start with the Elder Scrolls, you know, for the example I'll give. The Elder Scrolls world as a whole, I think if you look at the face of it, I think if you're someone who's just tampered with the games, you know, 20-30 hours in each game, stuff like that, not really read any books or anything like that, just kind of taken part in the quest, listened to a bit of dialogue and moved on, I think you could probably make the assumption that it's a very generic world. You know, it's just a high fantasy world with orcs and elves and dragons and things like that. It's just kind of the general idea of what it is. But once you feel you get deeper into that lore and start reading the books and the way that the lore is constructed in the Elder Scrolls, of having this idea of, you know, everyone has their account of history. They're kind of writing about stuff like they're historians, so that you can find conflicting accounts of lore and things like that, like you are in the world. And if you find one book and don't find another one, that could be the story you go off without hearing that other point of view. And I found that really fascinating and interesting, and the stories that they tell about, you know, the gods that they find and the different races in the world and the different places they come from and the stories of them, it really is, you know, there's a huge, immense amount of depth to the Elder Scrolls lore. And in my opinion, the stories that we find in the lore of the Elder Scrolls are way better than what we find in the main quest lines and main stories of the game. You know, I love reading about, you know, the rise of Tiber Septim and really seeing how that character became to who we became to be and stuff like that. And, you know, thinking about what happened, you know, to the Frost Elves, what happened to the, you know, the Dwemer and things like that. You know, really what was the big issue with the Redguards when you could just sank and stuff like that. Like, hearing about these mysteries are really great. And the same can be said for Fallout, but Fallout for me what really grasped me to the point where I really love Fallout is the Vault storylines that we get, and going through the hacking terminals and reading the stories that we get there of the lore of what happened in these vaults and everything, and how there were kind of these people getting experimented on. Not necessarily really what kind of caused the war. I know people kind of really get involved in that, but I love the Vault storylines and seeing the little minor stories that we get amongst them as well that people are leaving behind and everything. Both games do lore in pretty different ways, in my opinion. They do it kind of differently, mainly because one's set in like a more realistic, real-world, post-apocalyptic area, and one's set in, in a high fantasy land where it's still, kind of magic and pen and paper. That's maybe a big difference for it. But with Starfield, they can do a different way of lore, because we know that Bethesda can do that, but it's got to have the same depth to it that Elder Scrolls and Fallout has. They've done really, really well, with the lore in Elder Scrolls, like I said, from the off, and they've done brilliantly at bringing it forward from when they bought the series from Interplay. And Starfield has this completely new area to it, so we're going to be learning a hell of a lot. Everyone's starting at a fresh point, starting at zero, so we're all learning new things, and we're all going to be seeing who's who and who's what and everything, and learning more about the world around us and all that kind of stuff. And that's going to be really, really fun to take part in forums around the time and lore areas of the community to see. But I feel like the franchise will really rely on whether the world is great to explore or not. Fallout itself, really interesting idea, a post-nuclear apocalyptic area. And Skyrim, the amount we hear about the world and how beautiful it is, makes us want to explore more and how densely packed it is. And Starfield, they could make it right. They could make it right, like I say, of being able to have this really grand, dense this space world that we've got up in the stars. But it could also, easily go wrong. They've got to make it beautiful. They've got to make us want to explore it, and I think interesting stories in the lore is a big reason of why they make their world, how to make their world interesting, how they make their worlds more explorable to the player, and they have to do that with Starfield. And number 4 is diverse factions, and factions in our Bethesda games have always been important to me. I've always referenced in my videos in the past, and also in this video as well, the best part of the Bethesda games is to have that freedom to be able to go out and explore wherever you want. But I think with that freedom to be able to go and do these long quest lines as well, once we get to do them, really add a treat to, not just roaming around the world. Because I feel like if you're just roaming around the world doing side quests, it wouldn't make that exploration as fun. Because, when we're exploring, we always kind of feel like, we're denying this kind of weighted quest lines that we've got behind us, we've got to do later. And then eventually when we go and do those, or if you do those from the off, they're great quest lines to do. How many of us enjoy doing, the great Grand Heist mission and, the Thieves Guild, and following all the way to get up to that point and rising through the ranks, and the same with the Houses of Tilvani and the same thing with the Morrowind houses in Morrowind, obviously, to be able to rise through all them and the ones that be able to join and everything, and the differences between them. And the same thing as well, seeing what's going on with the Brotherhood and everything like that in Fallout. It's really, really cool how they've done factions and how different they are from each other among the game. Big credit as well to Fallout New Vegas for that, with the amount of factions that they have and that we kind of talk to and see throughout the game and everything. It's really, really cool and interesting to do. And I feel like they can't go wrong with doing that kind of style thing again with Starfield. We have so many different types of factions in our Bethesda games, of what we see and what we do with them, and the different aspects of morality they go for and all that kind of really cool stuff. And because we've got the freedom to go with the different aspects of morality, if you want to be a good guy and just do the good guy stuff and, not do, things like the Dark Brotherhood and stuff like that, don't do them. But if you want to be the bad guy, go and do the bad guy things. And if you want to do all of it, you've got the freedom to do all of it and everything. Morrowind did a good job of having this morality idea of some houses you're not being able to join if you're with certain guilds. But with this game, I feel like having that freedom to be able to join all of them, if they want to do the morality thing, because it doesn't you don't line up with the line of the guilds, I think that's fine with me. But being able to join all of them in different playthroughs, or being able to join certain ones of them in different playthroughs, is vital to me. I don't want to see a load of factions that are there that we hear about and then not be able to quest with them and not be able to talk to them. I don't want them to just be kind of cardboard scenery for the game. I want us to be able to join them and have long quest lines and be really intriguing and fun quest lines to do with great quests along the way. I think that's integral to what makes these kind of games successful, is having these really cool factions to join. It's what everyone really talks about, especially when we talk about Skyrim and Oblivion, is the Dark Brotherhood, and having not necessarily Dark Brotherhood in Starfield, but a quest line or a faction that really makes that lengthy and fun will make it all the more enjoyable, in my opinion. So thanks a lot for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I just kind of wanted to give a breakdown of 4 things that I'm kind of seeing either people worrying about not being in there, or what people are saying are integral to, you know, for the game to be successful. I kind of wanted to make a roundup, and this is kind of my own opinions as well of getting round up in there as well with those 4 things. I could obviously do more, you know, obviously the idea of having more races and stuff like that is one that people talk about if it's going to be in space, but I didn't necessarily want to do that as a whole, or, you know, being able to create your own character and everything, which is a big one. But I didn't necessarily want to do that because I'm not strictly 100% opposed to do that. I know that kind of maybe sound a little bit of a hypocrite in regards to, you know, not having freedom, but I think having the idea of having a set protagonist could be interesting for Bethesda. So we'll definitely have to see how that would work when the game, if the game gets announced. I think it will do, like I've said before. But when we start seeing more information about what the next Bethesda IP could be, we can speculate a whole bunch more. But these are the kind of fundamentals of a Bethesda game that I just want them to remain true to. So let me know if I've missed anything out. Let me know if there's any you agree with or disagree with, if you want them to do something differently than what I've said here. Maybe you don't want them to, you know, have the grand style exploration. Maybe you want it to be more of a linear experience. That'd be something different or something like that. Or if you want, maybe don't want us to rely on factions, but rely on more personal stories with certain characters and everything. Maybe 1 or 2 characters or anything like that, instead of questing with a whole faction. Maybe that could be a step in a good direction or something like that. Let me know what your opinions are, and I'll definitely talk to you in the comments below, share my opinions a lot more on everything. But thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys on Friday for the games I've played this week. Goodbye.